Welcome back. My apologies for my tardiness in getting this video up as well as last week's. Last week's has been recorded, uh, but I was gone for a week, and so I'm a little bit behind. This is actually the message I presented this past Sunday at church. So we'll soon catch up, but thank you to those of you who continue to watch these week after week. We are starting a new series with this message, a series on questions that Jesus asked people. And we'll get to that part in just a moment. In the summer of 1941, James Welch, who was then the director of religious broadcasting for the BBC, that is the British Broadcasting Company, invited a little-known Oxford Don to present a 4-week series of 15-minute talks on the radio. Welch had never heard this professor speak, but had read a book of his titled The Problem of Pain, and so was impressed by his thinking, and he contacted the author, C.S. Lewis, and invited him to present a series on Christianity in the hopes that it would help and inspire people while they were in the midst of World War II. Lewis was not a fan of radio, but he still agreed to do these talks because he realized he could reach 1 million people very easily. And so on August 6, 1941, Lewis presented the first of 4 scheduled 15-minute talks. It was so popular that it was quickly expanded to 5. And then afterwards, he delivered 3 more groups of talks before the end of World War II for a total of 15 radio talks. These talks were eventually published into 3 small books and then collected into one book, which was titled Mere Christianity, which is a classic book that's been around for a very long time. In fact, 79 years this book has inspired people, and I'm one of those people that it has inspired. Why were those talks so popular, though? And why has the resulting book continued to be popular after all of these years? Could be a lot of reasons, but my reason for this week is that it's because people are interested. People are interested in Christianity, and people are interested in Jesus. David Traley, a Catholic priest who taught at the University of Chicago, wrote, "More has been written about Jesus in the past 20 years than in the previous 2,000. Now, I've not personally researched the validity of his claim, but as someone who has continually read about and researched Jesus for the past 50 years, it certainly seems from my observation that there is some truth to his claim. And that's because people are interested in Jesus. People were interested in him 2,000 years ago, and people are interested in him today." As we start this new series, we're going to focus for the next few weeks on questions. In the 4 Gospels, we have access to at least 183 questions that Jesus was asked. In addition, we have over 300 questions that Jesus asked of others. And to be transparent, no, I did not personally reread all 4 Gospels and count the questions. I'm depending on, relying upon the scholarship and research of others, but I have looked into multiple sources and have found multiple sources to be saying pretty much the same thing about this, that he was asked at least 183 questions, but he asked over 300. Jesus rarely answered a question directly. He responded to questions, but often he responded to a question with his own question. For example, on one occasion, Jesus was asked, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" 2 questions, back to back. Jesus replied, "I will also ask you a question. If you answer me, I will tell you by what authority I am doing these things. John's baptism, where did it come from? Was it from heaven or of human origin? This conversation was between the chief priests and elders and Jesus. They asked him 2 questions. He responded with 2 questions. And they discussed it among themselves, and they said, well, if we say from heaven, he will ask, then why didn't you believe him? That is, why didn't you get baptized by John? But if we say of human origin, we are afraid of the people, for they all hold that John was a prophet. So they answered Jesus, we don't know. And Jesus responded, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. Well, today we're going to focus on 2 questions that Jesus asked his disciples. Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? Broad question. What are you hearing? What's being said on the street about me? And they replied, some say John the Baptist. Well, we assume from this that this question was asked after the death of John the Baptist. So there were people who were saying that Jesus, John the Baptist, come back from the dead. Others say Elijah, because there was some expectation that Elijah would return. Still others, Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. But what about you, he asked. See, first Jesus asked a broad question. Now he narrowed it down. What about you? Who do you say I am? At this point, the disciples had probably been with Jesus a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. So who do you say I am? You've been with me day and night, traveling on the road, hearing me teach, watching me perform miracles, watching me heal people. Who do you say I am? And Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Simple answer, direct answer. And an answer based on Peter's experience. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, which means rock or stone. And upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. What an immense responsibility Jesus just gave to the disciples. Now, some people believe that he only gave that to Peter. I personally believe he gave it to all the disciples. In this passage, Jesus asked 2 questions. The first, very broad. Who do people say the Son of Man is? What had the disciples been hearing? And then followed up with the narrow question. Who do you say I am? Jesus' questions are just as relevant today. Who do people say the Son of Man is? The people you know, your family, your friends, your co-workers, your neighbors. Who do they say Jesus is? When you have a conversation about Jesus, what are you hearing? When Lewis wrote his radio talks, he tackled a common perception of Jesus that was popular in the 1940s. And it still surfaces today. In fact, there's a passage in Mere Christianity that's one of the most well-known passages. I am here trying to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him, which is, I am ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. Probably heard that from people. I think Jesus was a great teacher. They might often reference something like the Sermon on the Mount. You read the Sermon on the Mount and you say, yes, he's a great teacher. But Lewis went on to write, that is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on a level with the man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, and that's who he claimed to be, or else a madman, or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool. You can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. You see, Lewis, when he wrote Mere Christianity, he wrote those original radio talks, he was using his logic. And his logic said, either you accept Jesus the way he was, the way he is, or don't accept him at all. Don't go for something in between. Jesus is the one who claimed that he had the power to forgive sins. Jesus is the one who claimed to be the Son of God. And so when someone makes those kinds of claims, to say, well, he's not God, but he's a great moral teacher, logically, that doesn't work. But what about Jesus' second question? Who do you say Jesus is? When someone asks you, who do you say Jesus is? What can you tell me about Jesus? I'm not asking you to think that he was. I'm asking you in the present tense. Who do you say Jesus is? If you're a Christian, you have at your disposal a range of answers. You can call Jesus your Lord, your Savior. And all Christians have the right to do that. You can call Jesus your shepherd. That's one of the ways the Bible describes him. You can even call him your gate. In the Gospel of John, he's referenced as the gate through which we walk. You can call him Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, grabbing some titles from the Old Testament. You even have the right to call him friend and brother. And you might think that sounds kind of trite, to think of Jesus as a friend and brother, and yet he's the one who described himself that way to the apostles. I'm your friend, I'm your brother, and I believe we have the right to claim those as well. All of these terms and descriptions of Jesus are in the Bible, and I believe they are all available to you and to me. Science makes use of an idea called Occam's razor. It says that the simplest explanation of a question is usually the best. The simplest one is usually the best. So when you're posed with the question, who is Jesus? And I'm hoping that even this week, someone, friend, neighbor, relative, co-worker, will approach you with that question. Who do you believe Jesus is? What is your simple answer? Base it on your experience. That's what Peter did. You don't have to feel the burden to share some big, deep theological treatise. Just speak from your own experience. Now, one answer I hope you don't give. Let me put you in touch with my pastor. No, your friend asks you. Your relative asks you. Your neighbor asks you. And you've got an answer. And it's a good one. So don't hesitate. Be like Peter. Be impetuous. Give your answer right away. Who is Jesus? I think people are still interested. And I think he uses you and he uses me to describe him to others. Who are the beloved? Go and be the beloved.